So, hi students, welcome to another very exciting session of healthcare entrepreneurship. We are going to pick it up from where we left last time. So, let us get started. Okay. So, what is the percentage breakdown of elderly age group for three critical morbidity conditions? Morbidity is something which has the possibility of leading to fatality. So, one of the top reasons is cardiovascular disease, CAD based disease, second is hypertension, third is chronic lung diseases. So, these are the top three diseases which are identified for the Indian subcontinent, and right now is the major issue in the country, right. This is what Hello is also trying to target. So, below the age of 45, you are looking at quite a few percent, like 15 to 14 to 15% population going through cardiovascular diseases, around 14%, 14.5% going for hypertension, much lower for chronic lung diseases, could be a little higher for the pandemic. Then you are looking at 45 to 49, there is an increase in the percentage from 15.5% to 19% for cardiovascular diseases, similar with hypertension. For 50 to 54, even more, 55 to 59 keeps on going high, and as we go towards 75 plus, the percentage really goes up till 37.4% for cardiovascular diseases, hypertension 34.1%, and then chronic lung diseases around 10.2%, almost 4 times from 2.6% below 45. So, compared to 45 years and below, like at 75 years, you have so many high chances of developing a chronic lung disease. So, typically what we observe is your target customers are very clear from here. It is majorly the elderly population. The more elderly do they get, like that becomes your more focus target groups, right. So, the percentage breakdown per group for no morbidity, single morbidity and multi morbidity conditions, like so if you look at no morbidity conditions, it is fairly high for 45 to 49. Single morbidity is typically of course an increasing curve going from 45 to 75, similar with multi morbidity, right. So, you are typically seeing a very high morbidity range, multi morbidity range from 70 to 74 years age, fairly low 10% for 45 to 49. So, below 45 is not a very good target group for this particular project Hello, right. So, this is very clear. So, the idea is 45 up till maybe 75 plus a little bit. So, 45 up. So, this is a set of statistics which is very important to analyze in order to see who are your initial target customer guesses, and of course, you can do the customer discovery and change this and validate this and then make this into facts, right. Alright, so looking at the target market, so there is a total serviceable available market, and there is this total target market, which total available market, total serviceable market and target market, right. So, typically population above the susceptible age of 45 with and without comorbidities pertaining to cardiovascular ailments, hypertension, breathing disorders, 32% of the current population. So, this is one of the target markets. Population above the age of 60 with and without comorbidities pertaining to all these ailments have 20% of the current population. So, you basically focusing on 32 plus 20, which is almost 52% of the general population, which is fairly high. This is the target market which you have. So, among the total available market which you are seeing on the screen, you have the serviceable market which can potentially have this entire device help them, which is 45 plus and so forth, but the target market is something you want to focus on. This is typically above 45 and above the age of 60, which is constituting 52% of your entire market. This is good to know what is your target age group, right. So, what was the solution based on the initial market survey? So, a high accuracy health vital tracking wearable device which ensures real time tracking of the chief health vitals such as heart rate, blood oxygen level, blood pressure, body temperature, and provides tools for better wellness such as step tracker and medicine reminder. This could be really valuable for the customers. This is based on the customer discovery with the initial idea. This thereby enables easier checking and tracking of the health parameters and reducing visits for physical health checkups at clinics. So, if you have this continuous tracking with all this particular features with heart rate, blood oxygen level, blood pressure, body temperature, then you have step tracker, this is kind of a gain creator, and medicine reminders. With just these 6 key features, you can enable much more easier checking like on a dynamic level, and basically you don't have to visit your doctors very often because you are kind of aware of what your condition, body condition is. If it is within a certain norm, then you know things are okay. If something goes wrong, it will send you an alert and ask you to visit the doctors, but that's usually not the case. Otherwise, what we end up doing is we every 6 months or something, once we have gone beyond the age of 40, we would, or 40 or 45, we would like to go for biannual checkups and whatnot to just make sure all the details are correct. But here you can just do it once in a year if the vital details are all captured on a day-to-day basis, right, in a dynamic environment. But one keyword here is the accuracy. So this particular device, Halo, with these sensors which are targeting these particular parameters, vital parameters, have to be very, very accurate, maybe at least 90 to 95% accurate, as close as to the par with the analog devices which are sold separately for medical diagnosis. Because if it is not that accurate and things are very different from a real thermometer versus when you have this watch, then the trust on it will really reduce down, and the doctors will also not trust it. They would not want to use this for a standard of measurement. They would want you to recheck it with your generic thermometers or blood pressure measurement system in order to validate. So that kind of a setting is not very good. And like I had mentioned, many of the smartwatches are facing the similar fate. Their accuracy of the sensors are very, very poor. I work in the area of the sensors, and I can vouch for it. Many of the sensors are extremely low cost and low quality, and they can go bad within a span of few months, right? So when you are looking at a very low cost product like 800 or 1200 rupees smartwatch or 2000 rupees smartwatch, you are basically getting a nice looking sleek product, and it may vouch for this warranty and so many other aspects, but typically you are having very low quality sensors. So I would encourage you to all kind of look at the smartwatch market from that aspect, that look for something which is in mid price, right? So this was the solution provided by Halo. How did they go further? The second step of the product development was screening of this idea. So this is typically done from a theory standpoint by defining and evaluating the ideas based on the following elements, right? The first element is compatibility of the concept with the overall business objective. So as an entrepreneur, we have a certain business objective. Our business objective is typically in the form, like for example, my objective, if I am building, let's say, insoles and other products around footwear, I want to get into this very healthy footwear or healthy foot kind of market. That's what my future objective is. I want to build all my products around that to make sure somebody has a very healthy foot, irrespective of whether you're an athlete or a daily runner or a particular generic person who walks a lot, or you're on your foot for a very long time. So that's the overall business objective. I want to have a very healthy foot, like for all the population, right? So is my particular product idea aligning with that? So there are several steps in your entrepreneurial journey where you will feel like probably this is not the right market, let me devise something very quickly to gain a quick buck, right? So all of a sudden you start making this over the counter kind of insole, which is not improving the lot. And we have seen this with a lot of insole brands which are claiming to be custom insole brands there in India. Specifically, they have spent this 5 or 7 years trying to sell a really nice customized insole, and they have not been able to. And now what they do is they buy something from over the counter and try to sell it through their company with very slight modifications for twice or thrice the price. That's not a very good idea. It's not very sustainable. So by doing that, you are not basically keeping your ideas very clear and sticking to the business objective, which is for better footwear or foot health, right? So sticking to the business objective is very, very important. Does your particular product or ideas is compatible with the business objective? So that's number one. Second is relevance of your idea based on the existing and predicted business conditions and goals. How much is it relevant? Very similar to compatibility. Is it very, very relevant to your business objectives or the markets which you've studied, or to the customer discovery which you have done? So many a times we would do customer discovery in a broader aspect, like let's say I want this nice healthcare app to connect, let's say, all the doctors to kind of discuss what kind of modalities they use to chat among each other. So this is probably this next idea from a project team. And what they want to do is they want to do a customer survey into that and get some positive results because there was some bias survey. And then later on what they want to build is an app which talks about the surgical techniques or discusses second opinion. So this is very different from the customer discovery which we perform as a part of that project. So everything has to be aligned with the business operations or the customer discovery and other things which we do as a part of our entrepreneurial journey. So if the product is misaligned from there, then there is a lack of relevance, right? Third is assumptions. So validity of the premises on which the idea is based upon. So this is basically something which is conducted through the customer discovery, that many of our assumptions or guesses of the value propositions are basically validated through the customer discovery, and we convert those assumptions into facts. Fourth, constraints. Internal and external barriers that inhibit the growth of an idea to reality. This is something we all need to consider very realistically. Many a times what happens is we have so many barriers like cost, or we don't have the right resources, I'm not in the right location. Do they inhibit any of your business practice or bringing the product out there in the market, right? So sometimes we may think, let us take this chance and we'll figure it out later how the cost and everything will come. This is very often done by the entrepreneurs. Majority of the times you'll fail while doing that if you don't have a plan of action. Fourth is feasibility. Practicability of the work to work based on the resources available. So this is again, if you don't have the right resources, I want to make this great medical device, and I don't have any experience of this medical device, neither do I have any equipments which I can use for making this medical device, neither I do have any contacts. So many of the project ideas will come like that, and they are completely not feasible. Or I want to make this nice app with something or something, right? This is a very common idea, and I don't have any expertise with app development, neither outlining it. Then my app is going to fail, and I don't have any idea of clinical practices, right? So value, the idea predicted return on investment. So I need to have, so one part is value proposition where I'm trying to add value to the customers. I also should derive some value from selling of my products, right? At the end of the day, what I am really concerned as an entrepreneur is making a change in the society, but also earning a good bit of money, right? So if the return on investment of whatever I make is not very profitable, then there is no value. Risks, internal or external risks that may limit the idea's progress. So there could be risks associated with, I don't trust my particular partner or team members who may run away with the money. So there can be risks like that also. Or there are risks of this product failing in the first set of clinical trials. There could be risks that I do not find the right marketing platform to really sell this product. These are real risks that has to be considered for idea screening. Okay. The costing and the feasibility estimates is another I want to look at. So specifically for Hello, what they did was they did a detailed costing, that if they had a low accuracy for the device, then how much would it cost for all the measurement sensors and the total details. Like, so you're looking at here on the table based on the SpO2 sensors, the step count sensor, the battery, the body strap, the chargeable cable, packaging box. Every small little detail is included, and that's the total cost. It's in dollars, so you're looking at an $18 versus $27 for a very high accuracy kind of products. So what is the difference here? The sensors. So if you have a highly accurate sensors, the cost will go up, right? And they have also done a cost breakup analysis to look at which is adding the maximum amount of cost. So one of the things which they found out was the display. If you have an LCD kind of AMOLED display, then the cost goes really high. So maybe you can go a little bit lower on the display and uh, not that much low on the sensors, right? So these are some of the aspects to screen their particular product, to look at what are the cost additions. They also did a detailed customer discovery through several weeks. You're looking at 14 weeks here specifically. They started from the week where Hello was selected, and 3 product ideas they had initially shortlisted. And this was they had a decision matrix, and they looked at the viability and product growth, and the different aspects with the cost and time feasibility, and they started with the project Hello, right? So they initially did an online survey and executed diagnostic device users versus non-users. So they looked at folks who are already using a lot of diagnostic devices, and also people who have never used a diagnostic device at home. What is the response set of responses from all this population, right? They made a really comprehensive survey and tried to explore that. So after the online survey execution, they looked at three age groups: 30 to 40, 40 to 60, and 60 plus, right? Which yielded very positive responses, like from certain age groups. The pain points which they focused on, and I'm looking at week 3 here, are low accuracy, lack of real-time health tracking with the existing devices. Then they basically did a new survey and interview study with the doctors and nurses. So the interviews were conducted to understand pain points with medical domain implementation, which were lack of trust in the device results. So this was a very commonly thing pointed by the doctors, that we do not trust the smartwatches which are giving some results. We trust our analog and these devices, full blown devices which are traditionally in the market. So this was a huge roadblock for Halo which they faced, right? And many of you folks who are interested in building some smartwatches, can think of this survey results. Another thing is uncertified. Most of these devices are uncertified, so the doctors were not very keen on using uncertified devices. So, for example, if you get a thermometer or some kind of a blood glucose measurement device, they are usually certified by the Medical Association of India or something or the other, right? But most of the smartwatches are uncertified. So the critical vitals identified based on all these interviews with the doctors were heart rate, BP, and temperature, right? Then the target segregation. So they also started looking at the caregivers and elders. They did some interviews to gain the pain points and gain creators from them. So typically what they found out was new vitals were identified, like SpO2 and blood sugar, which was of importance in the elderly population. So the tech team or the technology team generated data for prototyping and building feasibility. They started looking at their prototype from a low fidelity standpoint. They started focusing on the elders and the caregivers by taking feedbacks from them to follow on the pain points and the vital trends. They looked at some other gain creators which were identified through the interview, including multi-language function, medicine reminders, and step trackers, right? The doctors revisited the final results, and the doctors agreed that they are willing to promote the device if it is backed by medical institute or a certification. So basically, Halo now wants to tie up with a medical institute or get their product certified in some form in order to have a bigger credibility with the doctors. Then at week 8, they started looking at the product conceptualization. So they had done their initial customer discovery, and this is typically how your entrepreneurial journey for your new product is going to look like. They started focusing on the heart rate, BP monitoring sensors, SpO2 temperature and step count, and medicine reminder features for building. And the hardware ideation was executed. They built their first hardware based ideation of the prototype, right? Then they built a storyboard and app development platform. They needed an app for this, which basically had a preliminary app wireframe. And they did their product concept phase one. Basically, introductory marketing brochure was developed, and they shared and discussed their app with certain target customers to get some feedback. Then some research was conducted on the potentiality of inclusion of features which were requested in phase one, and basically 4 physical device design concepts were developed and showcased to the customers, right? So based on the customer interviews, 2 design concepts were selected. Alpha version of the Hello mobile app underwent went functionality review. So there are so many steps to get the customer feedbacks as they're ideating and then developing the product. So this is something to look upon through the slide. And finally, they looked at multiple color combinations. So even color was very important for several customers, where they did not want a dull color but something which is sharp and bright. So based on that concept, they came up with several variants. So the third part which they did, which is usually done as a part of the product development process, is the business analysis, which looks at the expenses incurred in the manufacturing, marketing and selling, and the projected sales, the projected profits. Halo did the same. They did an expense breakup for the annually. So they looked at the major heads like operation cost, marketing cost, app development and maintenance, e-commerce partner charges. Fairly high price. They're looking at huge lakhs of rupees, so the costing is fairly high. So they need to raise some funding, right? Some basic operations around it involved manufacturing, marketing and promotions, order management, logistics, delivery and dispatch, and question answer and product improve. right? So these were some of the cost aspects which Hello looked at. They also looked at the estimated MRP of the device, maximum retail price, right? Or this is the usual retail price which is there. As the sales will happen via online portals, so the online expenses will be included too for putting out an MRP. So which is 15 to 25 20% of portal charges. So Amazon for Flipkart kind of sale, 18% GST has to be included, 20% customer discounts, 10% spend on online Amazon ads, 5% packaging and branding, right? So the overall cost per unit was making cost plus external cost of rupees 4,144. Markup cost, they wanted to earn some profit, 90% of the overall cost, 3729. So the overall MRP is around 7,873 rupees. So close to 8,000 rupees is what they want to make this as an MRP in the market, right? So this is very important for your product as well, doing all this due diligence. The sales forecast were like this in 2023 quarter one through quarter four. They wanted to start with a sale of 1,500 Halo watches to 3,500 watches, and the sales forecast for 23 to 27 was they wanted to scale this up through an external agency up to 1,65,000 watches by 2027. Right? This is based on their cost structure and their costing. Then they finally came out with this business model canvas, which detailed out uh, quite a diverse set of details, like what are the key value propositions. You are seeing a lot of value propositions like affordability, accuracy, regular medicine reminders. Several of these can be bundled under the same value propositions, like emergency buttons. There are so many other value propositions. I'm going to skip this value proposition or the business model canvas because we are going to discuss this topic at length in the coming segments, right? The customer segments were specifically the caregivers and people with comorbidities. So the key revenue streams were the asset sale, cloud-based storage subscription fees, and premium memberships for health and wellness improvement. The key partners were OEM and hardware manufacturers, software developers, collaboration with reputed institutes, marketing channels, platforms. Some of the key activities involve design and algorithm development, the user interface development, app development, study of the published research. So this is another thing which they wanted to do as an extra, to have an extra edge in the market. They wanted to publish some initial clinical data which they've collected and validate it with some participants in the who are possible patients and people who want to monitor this vitals, and they want to publish this data as a in form of a journal publication or something else as a news article, which will give them further more credibility or traction, right? Some of the key resources here are internal manpower, intellectual property like device design and algorithm development, and some of the key aspects to the cost structure included medical grade sensors, algorithm development, software interface, mock-ups to evaluate the design and aesthetics, product testing and validation, mass production. So if they want to really scale up, they want to think about mass production and the design aspects which can be easily mass produced. Advertisement, right, has to go through a lot of marketing. Fourth is product and prototype development. So this is part of the product development process where you actually develop the prototype. How it works is typically for this particular Hello Watch, you wear the tracker around your wrist. It starts collecting the needed stats, extract or share data as per needed. So these are the three components of the product development or prototype development which Hello did: the hardware development as well as the app development and the integration. These are the three components. Very easy said than done. So Hello device with feature layout and grid. So dedicated treat for wrap up trim and buttons, so that they had a nice button and it could trim basically. So majority of these prototypes which you're looking out are kind of adapted from other watches which are there in the market. They wanted to just come out with a low fidelity prototype. So this is not something which they actually built. They are still in the design and prototyping phase, right? Elegant and clean aesthetics. They wanted an IP68 rating. So this is specifically rating for making sure the watch is compliant. Texture for better grip. So this is another thing. So these are very visual and comfort features which they wanted to integrate. So the different components of the watch included touchscreen, wraparound trim, display module, sensor assembly, rechargeable battery module, enclosure, and a button, right? Among many others. These are some of the key materials. So the main body was made up of carbon fiber. Material 2 preference was PC slash ABS with a metal trim. Uh, Aluminum alloy was the third choice. So carbon fibers filled with material is light in weight and can be low in thickness, providing comfort. The touch display was typically of the type AMOLED display. Within the second preference was an IPS, and third was LCD based on the costs and other factors. So the AMOLED provided high contrast and high brightness display with better view angles. So if you're looking from this angle versus this angle, AMOLED display does the job really well, helping elderly customers. So this was one of the main preferences selected. So while you're working on your particular device or product, you want to do this same material categorization. What aspect of your device is built of what material? That kind of categorization is very important. This what I'm trying to explain through this lecture will basically form as a template for your work of the product development of your product, right? For whatever in the healthcare space you're working on, you have to go through the similar set of journeys, these 7 steps of product development. So coming back to the different halo materials, the tactile button was made up of ABS was the first preference, followed by the aluminum alloy and carbon fiber. These preference orders are sometimes set because of the market availability of material. So many a times it's desirable to have a material, but when you're looking at scale up, you're thinking of instead of 10 watches, you're looking at 1 lakh watches producing that is where you need to have few options of the material to reduce the cost, right? So sometimes selecting the first preference may get you a very high cost and you may not be able to generate a lot of revenue, right? So sometimes it's good to have 2 or 3 different material preferences. So typically it was considered, ABS was considered to be cost effective, softer to touch. The sensor housing was preferred to be built with ABS. ABS will provide high strength and flexibility and will feel better on the skin. ABS is typically a plastic kind of material. One common example is most of the bumpers for the cars are built of ABS, right? Like, so that's the kind of material we're looking. Strap was to be built with soft silicon. So the second option was silicon magnetic, and the third was metal magnetic. So soft silicon is usually comfortable to wear for long term and has a high acceptability from customers. Typically, with a lot of watches, this has been already experienced. Then there needs to be a locking mechanism for locking the watch with the strap, which typically has a metal hook, which is easy to use. With some new and fresh looks to the design would be valuable. The other options are magnetic locking and metal buckle, right? So these are some additional options just in case the cost goes up. So this is how the halo materials were broken down. These are the different color versions in which halo is proposed. Like one is a rose white, second is black, and third is rose black. Slight subtle differences, but looks very clean and attractive. So the fifth stage is basically testing. Testing can have different dimensions. The first dimension is with the type of stage of testing. One type of testing is known as alpha testing, is basically examining the product inside the firm, so inside within your company, to ensure it meets the set regulatory standards, the set technical standards and other details, right? The next test is beta testing, means launching your minimum viable product, MVP. We are going to talk about MVP at length in the upcoming lectures. Or test a version in the market to verify the product market fit. This is a very important stage beyond your customer discovery, is you try to look at product market fit. Now you have a minimum viable product at a low fidelity prototype. You want to showcase this to the target customers and actually get a real insight whether they would be willing to purchase it or not, right? So nevertheless, it doesn't include testing the final end product or the marketing strategy. So during this testing phase, you're not looking at the end final product. That can come out after this testing phase, once you've gotten the right feedback and you have incorporated the same into your design and prototype. And the different ways of testing in the market, besides beta testing and alpha testing, include standard test markets. We are going to talk about this at length in the coming lectures. This basically comprises of small representative markets, for example, a single concentrated city inside the full state where the firm conducts a full-fledged marketing campaign and makes use of store audits, customer service, and distributor service. So let's say you keep a product into certain stores and you want to get an insight on how much are the target customers looking at it and the possibility of getting it bought up, right? The control test market, as these are artificial testing avenues, these are not open forums where all the general public can come in. These are panel of stores that basically consent to carry new products for a fee. So even there is a risk of competitors gaining access to the new product. So many a times in the control test markets, you put something in, let's say, big bazaar or some kind of a platform when many of the people can come in and check out for the products, so you can have competitors look at the products, right? The third step is, and I'm going to describe all of these testing techniques like in detail, this is just an overview. Third is simulated test marketing, or markets, like these are events of shopping environment created by the firm. So this is within your company, you take a small room and create a simulated market, and you get some end customers or possible customers and try help them to choose from several other brands which are there. Do they look at your particular brand, right? So let's say I have this so many varieties of chips, like we have Lay's chips, we have tomato chips, which we have different varieties of chips. Which one do the target customers prefer? Similar with smartwatches, you have so many smartwatches, which one do they pick? Do they pick yours? If they do pick yours, you have succeeded in your simulated test marketing. So there are so many test marketing techniques. So during the product testing framework, post customer discovery phase, the product diagnostic sessions were conducted with potential customers in three phases for Hello, where definite stages of product concepts were displayed to the potential customer. The potential customer feedback was recorded and studied to incorporate customer pain points, gain creator focused improvements into the concepts before each subsequent diagnostic session. So basically, Hello has come through several stages of the design phases. You can see the watch looking much more like a Fitbit to looking much more like an Apple Watch, how the distinguishment or like the different phases of the Apple design, this particular Hello design has progressed during this prototype and this beta testing and initial phase of beyond the customer discovery of customer feedback. The sixth point of product development is validation and regulatory approvals. So typically, if you're looking at the US, you're looking at the Food and Drug Administration, which is the FDA. Then if you're looking at the Euro standards, the standards are different. So under the FDA, the ISO 10993 looks at biocompatibility of a product, whether you have a medical implant or something which is in touch with the human inside or blood, whether this is compatible. IC 60601 looks at safety and EMCs. IC 62304 looks at software from the medical standpoint. Then ISO 14971 2019 version looks at risk. This is typically the ISO standards for the same. The ISO standards some of them are similar, and global standards vary slightly for the European standards as well. We have similar administrations in the Indian context. Many of the medical devices are kind of certified by the ICMR or the Ministry of Health, and there are several other certification agencies like the Bureau of Indian Standards, BIS, and several ISO standards are also followed. I'm going to talk about all these regulatory standards at length in the upcoming lectures. So typically what is done is the verification of the device, whether it is fitting within a certain standard or category, is usually done as a part of this regulatory approvals. And we also look at validations, whether this particular device, which could be a medical device or any other wearable device which you're trying to build, goes through a set of clinical evaluations and clinical trials or studies in the actual patients, right? So these are several steps which can be really time consuming. Similar with the COVID vaccine. So COVID vaccine, it went through an expedited clinical trial and test across the initial phases of typically it goes through several small animal, large animal trials, and then the human trials. But given it was an emergency, it went through human trials and pretty much worked very well, right? So these are the clinical trials for regulatory approvals which are taken into account during the product development. So typically with the Hello Watch, what is seen is, unlike the US FDA, which provides detailed guidance on the regulation on smart wearables. So in the US market, the smart wearables are very clearly regulated. In India, typically the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, which is CDSCO, is a regulatory body. Which has generally been silent on this aspect of smartwatches, leaving the matter to interpretation, right? So they have typically not given any key regulations in the smartwatch market. And there may be some recent updates which I'm not aware of, or there could be updates which are upcoming, which could be the case. But this is a little bit older data. 2 3 years back, the regulations were not there specifically for the smartwatch, and it doesn't need to go through a clinical trial. So basically, if you have something which is non-invasive, just worn as a smartwatch, you could just not have a regulatory clearance and go with it, right? Earlier. So right now the its details may have changed, and it's a dynamic update, and I'll try to dig in that information if there is a latest update on the regulations, right? But there are some recommendations typically by CDSCO, like which may be followed, right? So typically you wear the tracker around your wrist. It collects the needed stats and extracts the data to your basically server, and you get it on an app. These are the three operations through your which the Hello basically watch functions. From a commercialization aspect, which is the last step of the product development process, this stage involves the highest costs as manufacturing units are typically rented or purchased. Advertising and communication campaigns are administered, and sales promotion and other marketing efforts are executed to develop an initial demand. So these kind of activities become really important. Commercialization is the stage at which you start bleeding money. So that's why many of the products I've seen, what we do is we try to commercialize it in the ideation phase, create a huge buzz about it, and start developing it, and most of these products will fail. So typically you have to go through all the 6 stages of development before you reach the commercialization stage. If you skip the line or skip the steps, it's going to backfire, right? So the various important decisions which are made during the commercialization stage include the introduction time. What is the best time to launch a product? This is very similar to a lot of movies which are launched, like so many of the movies may be launched during the Diwali season or this Christmas. Very similar, you have to have a certain need in the market, and probably a certain segment is kind of identified, and this is the right time to launch it, right? So for example, if you have a device which basically monitors your lung sounds and your possibility of pneumonia or some other asthmatic disorders, you would want to introduce that device during the winter season rather than the peak summers, right? So that's an intuitive idea. So the introduction time is very useful, and sometimes introduction time is also based on the policies of the government. So sometimes you will see some policies of the government are trying to support this particular area, so you want to jump in at that time. So for example, the recent policies are towards the mental health awareness as well as the mental health understanding and startups around that. So right now a lot of mental health startups which were 5 years before can, this is a good time to jump in into the mental health segment, right? Introduction phase should be should the product be launched in a single market or simultaneously in multiple markets? This is another very important aspect to look at, whether you should market this particular insole product within the generic market as well as the diabetic market, or should it start with the diabetic market? This is a matter of concern, and this changes from one product to another, and that focus has to be there. Which market am I going to generate the first bit of revenue? That should be your target market to start with, and then you can eventually go out. So maybe I would start with a generic market and then go to the diabetic market, or if I know beforehand the diabetic market is a sure shot market, I would start with that and then start expanding. So depending on my customer survey and the feedbacks which I've got on the target market who are willing to buy my product, I go into this introduction place basically. Future strategies. What should be the strategies that should be taken once the product is launched in the market? So now I have launched this product in the market. Do I just sit and enjoy my life? Should I? That is something which I should do. No, not really. I should constantly get feedback, constantly understand what are the leads, how many people are hitting my website or hitting my app on trying to look at my product, what are the other segments through which I can create a buzz about it, and possibly talk to some other customer segments. So this is where the real work starts. Once a product is out there in the market, you have to start running around, hiring people, maybe doing the extra marketing or running ads in the social media campaign. There are so many other activities which comes along. So wherever the product development ends, that's your real entrepreneurial real journey which basically starts. So majority of your entrepreneurial foundation is during the product development, and then you go for your real journey when you have to convert your products into particular revenue. If you're not earning money from your business, it's not going to work, right? So Hello basically looked at a very key specific market, which is wearable market plus cloud monitoring. Very clean and nice, kind of setting and attractive feature which they had. So these are the this is the sales pitch for Hello. Hello is a device which is targeted at the elderly population, enabling them in taking correct decisions about their health with the utmost confidence through a user-friendly technology platform. So this is when they launch, when they're planning to launch or commercialize their product. This is the sales pitch, and all of us as an entrepreneur for certain products needs to have a sales pitch in place. Going forward, Hello is a high accuracy wearable device which performs real time tracking of the critical health vitals, namely heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen level, blood oxygen level, and body temperature. It is also equipped with wellness features such as step counters and medicine reminders, which strongly complements the primary health tracking function and ensures all round healthy experience to the user. Intuitive design supported by sophisticated technology, very nicely placed. Intuitive design, easy to use but sophisticated technology, complex technology. Industry approved certifications and affordable price makes Hello a highly effective and trustworthy designs which separates us from the rest in the market. So this is such a nice sales pitch to talk about how is my product unique. Now through all the customer discovery value proposition, I've integrated all that feedback during my product development process, and now I'm in the commercialization phase, trying to pitch this in front of a VC or a person I'm trying to get some funds out of, or as a crowdfunding platform, or out there in the market in a YouTube video, right? So this is typically the sales pitch example. Then there needs to be a marketing plan in place. So the for Hello specifically, the initial focus was on the e-commerce sales and digital footprints. By For awareness and brand building, it will be assisted by social commerce and digital promotions. Retail channels will be tapped in later stages as measurability is low and efforts are high. So e-commerce sales is the initial driver through Amazon and Flipkart. Social media marketing is the second driver through affiliate and paid promotions, and third is the channel partners, marketing networks like Herbalife. Like so, you get several channel partners which kind of recommend this device, right? So these are the three stages of marketing. So looking at the journey of Hello, basically proposed timeline for the product promotions and journey for the initial year. This is something again we need to work out for your product. Beta version launch. Beta version is typically almost the pre-final version where we want to get the final version of the feedbacks and before we launch it full blown in the market. So this has the product interaction with the actual customers where you will see a lot of these softwares which has a beta version. Beta version basically means they are trying to see how many customers are using it. Now once it is viral and this is very popular, they launch the real version. Second is product launch, where they have sales and social media promotions with paid ads. Then they have affiliate and channel sales, basically through which they are trying to tap onto the marketing networks like MLM chains. Then they have website sales, sales from the website. And finally, partnerships with fitness trainers, health gurus, therapists, and gyms, which can actually vouch for our products. These are such nice avenues to look for so many channel partners where we can sell this particular product. Hello, right?